Hey guys, thanks so much for joining me. In this video we're going to be talking about overhauling the fuel primer on your LLY. Now don't let that word overhaul throw you. All we're doing is taking this thing apart and replacing those leaky O-rings that like to let air into your fuel system. Pictured here are a few of the tools we're going to need to do this job. First thing we're going to do is remove the filter and bleeder assembly. We're going to start off by removing the fuel lines. You'll see them here right at the end of these arrows. Don't worry if a little fuel runs out. It's not going to be a large volume. Once that's done, let's go ahead and pull the two connections on top of the housing. Next, go ahead and unplug your water sensor. Don't worry about removing the sensor itself just yet. We'll do that in a later step. Lastly, we're going to remove the two 12mm bolts that hold the primer unit to the engine. Be sure to check your kit packaging. Mine came with step-by-step instructions as well as photo illustrations. I found them to be pretty helpful. I've chosen to use my tailgate as my workbench. Now that we have the unit out of the truck, we can begin tearing it down. The first step is going to be to remove the water sensor from the base of the fuel filter. Use a pair of channel locks or other such pliers and gently turn counterclockwise. I say gently because this is just a nylon piece and it won't take a whole lot of force to mess it up. Be sure to have a catch basin ready, as fuel is going to run out of the filter when you remove the water sensor. Now we're left with the primer unit itself. So we're going to start off by removing the 3 Torx T20 screws at the base of the pump itself. Now you're going to want to make sure to hold firmly down as you're removing the screws. This unit is spring-loaded, and otherwise it could take off on you. Go ahead and separate the pieces, and let's get those old O-rings out of the way. Just make sure you pay attention to their orientation. The new O-rings, or seals, are essentially the same part number. They just have to be installed in opposite directions, as you can see from the pictures. Remember to bathe the seals that you're putting on generously in any leftover diesel fuel you may have, and also to wipe away any contaminants before reinstalling them. The next O-ring we want to replace is found on the primer base and is the one that actually seals the pump mechanism to that base. Now that's done, we want to flip the unit over to reveal the fuel heater and the bottom of the bleeder mechanism. Let's go ahead and remove the T20 screws, and again, as on top, make sure you securely hold the fuel heater, as this too is spring-loaded. As you can see by the arrows, when I pulled my fuel heater off, the seals were not exactly where they were supposed to be. One got caught on the spring as I was removing it, and the other got caught down in the housing. No worries though, it was easily pried out with a small screwdriver. Now simply install the new O-rings and go ahead and put those T20 screws in place, making sure to maintain pressure against that spring-loaded unit. Remember that water sensor we pulled off earlier? Now we're going to replace the O-ring that seals it to the base of the fuel filter. Once reinstalled at the base of the fuel filter, we'll go ahead and put a new O-ring at the top of the fuel filter, making sure to moisten it thoroughly with some leftover fuel, and then securely mount it to the primer head. first step in reinstalling is to reattach the entire unit to the engine using the two 12mm bolts that we took off earlier. Now we'll reattach the two connections to the base of the pump. Next, we need to reattach those fuel lines we took off earlier. Don't forget to plug back in that water sensor too. Next, we're going to bleed the system. This is accomplished by loosening the bleeder screw and gently pushing the pump mechanism down until fuel and air starts to escape. Once you feel like you've gotten all the air out and it's mostly fuel coming out, you can tighten the bleeder screw down. Before trying to start your Duramax, be sure to wipe up any remaining fuel that may be left from the bleeding process. I have found it helpful to cycle the key on and off a couple of times and allow the pump to prime the system before actually trying to start. This should make starting a whole lot easier. I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks so much for watching.